I also think it might head to 100,000.
What's up YouTube? It's your boy Rhett back at it again with another video. And today I'm going to be doing a video response to Graham Stephan's latest video where he allocated 1% of his portfolio into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And specifically I'm going to be responding to some of his opinions at the end of the video where he let us know that even though he's bought into Bitcoin and Ethereum, his opinions on Bitcoin have not changed.
Many of my original thoughts on Bitcoin remain unchanged.
So in this video, I'm going to go through those opinions one by one and let you know the other side of the story. So if you watch until the end of the video, you're going to get galaxy brain rebuttals to any of the Bitcoin FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Rebuttals to basically any of the Bitcoin FUD that you're going to hear day to day. And you're going to get all of that from me, an above average intelligence Bitcoin maximalist sitting in his room with a Kanye poster. And before we get started, I'm a huge fan of Graham Stephan's. I think he's a really smart guy. I just disagree with him wholeheartedly on his opinions on Bitcoin. And I think that if he does a little more research and gets a little more information, he'll actually come around to have a more pro-Bitcoin position. Because he does seem genuinely curious and open to changing his mind when he gets new information and contemplating new ideas. With that being said, go ahead and smash the like button and let's get started.
In the big picture of investing, Bitcoin is still very new. I still think 12 years of history is not enough to estimate a value 30 to 50 years from now.
So the first common complaint that we're going to talk about here is Bitcoin is so new. I see this one all the time, and I think the rebuttal to this one is just so good. Because it really exposes how little people that have this FUD understand and know about Bitcoin. So it all comes down to Bitcoin's only 12 years old and people are really upset about that because it's brand new and they think it's going to go away. If you go over to my Twitter, link in the description, the pinned tweet is actually a link to a podcast between Michael Saylor and Robert Breedlove. And in that podcast, Chad Saylor points out that every week Bitcoin trades 5 times as many hours as the New York Stock Exchange. And right away when you hear that, you think 5 times, Rhett, how could that be? The New York Stock Exchange actually only trades 6.5 hours a day for 5 days a week. And so when you do that math, 6.5 times 5, you're gonna get 32.5 hours per week that the New York Stock Exchange is open for active trading. Bitcoin, on the other hand, trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is 168 hours per week, which is a little bit more than 5 times as many hours as the 32.5 that the New York Stock Exchange trades. That means that in the 12 years that Bitcoin has been trading, it is traded for the same number of hours that the New York Stock Exchange has traded for since 1960, which is basically my parents' entire life. In my parents' entire life, the New York Stock Exchange has traded as many hours as Bitcoin has in the last 12 years. And if I'm going to do the quick maths here for you, 2021 minus 1960, that's 61 years. So I think it's very, very reductive to say that Bitcoin has only traded for 12 years. Because in reality, Bitcoin has been trading 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no downtime for 12 years. Something that no other asset in history has ever done. It would be interesting to even see what stocks have traded since 1960. My hunch is that it's not very many. So if you're checking the scoreboard, it's currently 1 for the Bitcoin maximalists and 0 for the people that say that Bitcoin has only been trading for 12 years. On to the next piece of FUD.
I still think it could potentially collapse down to nothing.
If you head over to 8marketcap.com, you'll see the rankings of the biggest assets in the world, including precious metals, public companies, and cryptocurrencies. And when you're over there, you'll see that as of the filming of this video, Bitcoin is the number 11 biggest asset in the world. It's bigger than Berkshire Hathaway, it's bigger than Samsung, it's bigger than Visa, it's bigger than JP Morgan Chase, it's bigger than Disney, it's bigger than Verizon, it's bigger than Nike and Coca-Cola. And we could do this for a very long time. In fact, it would take us a lot less time to list the only 10 entities in the world that are more valuable than Bitcoin. 2 of which are gold and silver that have been trading for literally thousands of years. If you went and put 1% of your portfolio into Berkshire Hathaway, no one would come at you and say, well, Rhett, you know Berkshire Hathaway could go to 0, right? Because of course, Berkshire Hathaway could go to 0, it's just incredibly unlikely. Netflix could go to 0 too. Netflix is a lot smaller than Bitcoin, and it is traded for way less hours than Bitcoin. But if you said, I have a 1% position in Netflix, no one would bat an eye. No one would say, oh, that's not a good idea. Netflix could go to 0. Netflix could go to 0. Bitcoin could go to 0. It's such a small risk, but it's the risk that you take when you invest in anything. Everything could go to zero. It's technically possible for that to happen. It's just incredibly unlikely when you've become this massive large entity that is starting to become more and more intertwined into the current financial system. It's incredibly unlikely that Bitcoin will go actually to zero, to absolutely nothing. $500-600 billion of value is not just going to disappear overnight. So at the end of the day, could Bitcoin go to zero? Absolutely. Bitcoin could theoretically go to zero. It's also possible that you could win the lottery if you played the lottery. But that doesn't make buying lottery tickets a good investment decision. You shouldn't take into account that you could theoretically win the lottery when deciding whether or not to buy a lottery ticket. You should look at the expected value. And so with that being said, I think it's highly unlikely that Bitcoin goes to zero. I obviously can't guarantee you of anything other than that I will be buying $20 a day of Bitcoin no matter what happens. And I'm just a small fish in a really big pond. There are people who have much more conviction and much deeper pockets than I do who are going to buy Bitcoin every day no matter what the price is. And if the price falls to 8,000 or 6,000 or 200 again, we're going to buy a lot of it because we believe that there is inherent value in a fixed supply asset that is provably scarce and that has a predictable inflation schedule. Another one of Graham's criticisms is that no one can predict the price.
I don't think any amount of charting or analysis is going to accurately predict when and where this will end up.
This one might be sort of a low blow because I don't think that Graham believes that you can predict the price accurately and reliably of any asset, because if someone could do that, they would make an unfathomable amount of money. However, there actually are people out there who have made Bitcoin price predictions that have been incredibly accurate over the lifetime of Bitcoin. Specifically, if you follow Plan B on Twitter, he's a pseudonymous Twitter user that posts stock to flow models of Bitcoin, you will see that the Bitcoin price curve has very steadily tracked Plan B's stock to flow models. Stock to flow basically allows you to see how much the current supply of any asset is being inflated over time. And so basically the higher the stock to flow, the lower the inflation rate, and the less your underlying asset is being ripped away from you by inflation over long periods of time. Stock to flow is key to Bitcoin because every 4 years, the incoming flow of Bitcoin gets cut in half in an event called the halving. As of the 2020 halving, Bitcoin has about the same stock to flow ratio as gold. So the amount of daily incoming Bitcoin is at about the same ratio to the current supply as gold. So gold has about a 2% inflation per year, and Bitcoin has about a 2% inflation per year as of now. But in the next halving, Bitcoin's stock to flow is going to get cut in half again. And so the incoming daily supply will be about half that of gold, making Bitcoin twice as scarce as gold, which is something that we've never seen before. Gold has had the highest stock to flow ratio of anything that we've seen. And so in the next halving, we're going to be in completely uncharted territory for the scarcity of Bitcoin. So this scarcity is helping drive up the price, as well as institutional interest from companies like PayPal, Square, MicroStrategy, and Grayscale, who are all buying up more Bitcoin every day than is being introduced into the supply by the flow of miners validating transactions and creating new blocks. Of course, no model is going to be 100% accurate over time. Stock to flow just gives you a general idea of what range the price is going to be in. And if Bitcoin's price ever deviated very far from stock to flow over a long period of time, I would totally agree with Graham that no one can reliably predict the price of Bitcoin day to day. But I think he would agree that you can't really reliably predict the price day to day of any asset. So instead of digging deep and attacking on that point of view, I'd like to switch to a different point of view that's sort of related and one that you'll hear a lot. And that's the idea that Bitcoin is backed by nothing. It's just this intangible, ethereal thing that exists because people think it has value. And that's what some people will say to you, that Bitcoin is backed by nothing. And this is of course not true. Bitcoin is backed by the most secure and the most powerful computing network ever developed by humans. It has literally been sitting out in the public for 12 straight years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can hack it, I can hack it, anyone can try to hack it. And the reward if you do hack it right now is about $600 billion. And so there's this huge reward to hack it. Anyone can go ahead and try to hack it, but of course no one has been able to. And that's not because people are just really nice guys and they don't want to hack Bitcoin. It's because there is no computer. If all the computers on Earth tried to hack Bitcoin at the same time, it would take them hundreds of years to do so. And this sort of dovetails into this argument about quantum computing, and if quantum computers suddenly showed up tomorrow, would they be able to get rid of Bitcoin? Theoretically, yes. But quantum computers aren't just going to exist tomorrow. It's going to be a slow development over time. And as the technology improves, the security side of Bitcoin will be updated as well. Because once better computing exists, the most profitable use for that computing will be to secure the Bitcoin network. And so there's actually an incentive for you to use the best technology to continue to mine and develop and secure the Bitcoin network. And so because all of this game theory exists, I think the quantum computing question is sort of ridiculous. And so in a world where large hacks and leaks damage the reputation and businesses of very large profitable companies, I have a hard time believing, and I think it's actually absurd to suggest that the most secure computing network ever invented is worth nothing and is backed by nothing. Additionally, Bitcoin is backed by a network of miners who every day make the economic choice to contribute their computing power to the network. It's backed by retail traders like you and me who every day choose to buy Bitcoin. And like I mentioned earlier, it is increasingly becoming backed by large public companies who are choosing to dump their profits and treasuries into Bitcoin at every opportunity that they get. I think in particular, MicroStrategy has committed to buying Bitcoin in the future with the money that it makes as profit year over year. And this is powerful because it invests you not only in MicroStrategy, right, but in any company whose success is going to be translated into the future price of Bitcoin. And PayPal and Square and Grayscale and MicroStrategy know that once this becomes consensus, once it becomes known by all companies that the best thing to do is to invest your corporate treasuries or your profits into Bitcoin, because that's going to reserve the value of your hard work and your wealth over time. And if the US continues to debase the US dollar and print frivolously with no plan of ever paying anything back, this will definitely become a consensus decision. Once that consensus happens, it's going to be very, very expensive to buy Bitcoin. And it will be harder and harder and harder to make any case that Bitcoin is backed by nothing, because it's not backed by nothing. It's backed by all of these miners like we've talked about, all of these institutions, all of these retail traders like you and me, and most importantly, the most secure computing network that's ever been engineered in the history of humanity. So those are my opinions, and those are the reasons that I think that Graham Stephan is wrong about Bitcoin. Again, I think Graham will eventually come around. I think he just needs a little bit more information about Bitcoin. I've seen him change his mind before, and he does seem intellectually curious and flexible enough to change his mind when new information is presented to him, and I think that that is a really powerful skill that we should all be looking to cultivate. And Graham, if you're watching, I'd love to call into your show and talk to you about it. I think we'd have a really fruitful conversation. I think I could probably convince you that Bitcoin is a better investment than you're giving it credit for. And for everyone else that's watching this, go ahead down below, hit the like button. It really helps the channel. It's going to help spread these ideas of why Bitcoin is important to more people on YouTube, and it's going to help them secure their wealth in something that is not going to be inflated away over time. Additionally, down below, I do answer all of the comments. So if you found anything in this video interesting, or if you learned anything, or if you have any questions, you want me to clarify anything, go ahead, leave that in the comments, and I'll make sure to get you a response right away. And then if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe for more tech, money, and success videos every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's it for today. I love you all. Goodbye.